Good afternoon all. Here we are again continuing with the previous videos operating system structures. So coming to operating system structure, there are different types of structures. First one is a symbol structure. Your MS-DOS. MS-DOS is following the symbol structure. So symbol structure is like it is not divided into modules. The interface and functionality is not like well separated. So application programs can access the basic IO routines to write directly to the display and disk drivers. That is not recommendable thing. So this is a pictorial representation of MS-DOS layer structure. You have application programs, resident system program, MS-DOS device drivers and ROM BIOS device drivers. Next one is Unix. Unix limited by hardware functionality. The original Unix operating system had limited structure in the unit OS consists of two separable parts, system programs and kernels. There are two parts, system programs and kernels, and kernel consists of everything below the system call interface and above the physical hardware. This is physical hardware, this is system call interface, in between this is the kernel. And the kernel will be responsible for CPU scheduling, memory management and other operating system structures. So large number of functions will be taken care by kernel, that is Unix system structure. Next one is a layered operating system. In layered operating system, OS is broken into number of layers. So you can see layer 0 to layer n, and each layer rests on the layer below it and relies on the service provided by the next lower layer. So layer 1 is depends on the layer 0, layer 2 is depends on the layer 1, like that. And layer 0 is hardware layer and layer n is the user interface. And this is total independent layer. This is the dependent layer. Typical layer consists of data structure and routines that can be invoked by higher level layers. So whatever the data structure with the layer 0 can be invoked by the layer 1. Layer 1 data structure invoked by the layer 2. And next one is a microkernel system structure. Microkernel system structure here, non-essential services will be removed from the kernel part, and the removed part will be known as the user space. Communication take place between the user module using the message passing system. And what are the benefits of using microkernel system structures are easier to extend a microkernel, easier to port the operating system to new architecture, more reliable and more secure. And determinants are performance overhead of user space to kernel space communication. How to communicate user space to kernel space communication, that is the one drawback. And the next one is the modules. Most modern operating system implement kernel modules. Kernel modules means there are different modules for each functions, like a user object oriented. It is following user object oriented approach. Each core component is separate. That component will be one module, and these modules each talks to the other over non-interface. Each is loadable as needed within the kernel. So, and overall similar to layers but with the more flexible. These are the layers and this is the kernel. All can dynamically connected. All modules are dynamically connected. Next topic is virtual machines. The fundamental idea behind a virtual machine is to abstract the hardware of a single computer into several different execution environment. Create create the illusion that each separate execution environment is running its own private computer. The resources of the physical computer are shared to create the virtual machines. CPU scheduling can create the appearance that users have their own processor, and spooling and a file system can provide virtual card readers and virtual line printers. Normal user time sharing terminal serve as the virtual machine operating console. This is the example. This is with a non-virtual machine. So one hardware, kernel and process. Here hardware and kernel and different process. So we will be, there is one illusion like each process have their own kernel and like that. Illusion that each separate execution environment is running its own private computer. This is virtual machine example. This is non-virtual machine example. And the virtual machine concept provides the complete protection of system resources since each virtual machine is isolated from all other virtual machines. And virtual machine system is perfect vehicle for operating system research and development. System development is done on the virtual machine instead on a physical machine, and so does not disturb normal system operations. The virtual machine concept is difficult to implement due to the effort required to provide an exact duplicate to the underlying machines. And VMware is example for that. And VMware runs as an application on a host operating system such as Windows or Linux, and allows this host system to concurrently run several different guest operating systems as independent virtual machines. This is the architecture for VMware. Different guest operating systems. So a host system to concurrently run several different host operating systems as independent virtual machines. It will be running as independent virtual machines, guest operating systems. And the next example is Java virtual machine. This is the Java virtual machine. Java was designed from the beginning to be a platform independent by running Java only on a Java virtual machine. And Java source code is compiled into Java bytecode in .class files. Java bytecode is binary instruction that will run on the JVM. The JVM implements memory management and garbage collection. JVM consists of class loader and Java interpreter. Class loader load compiled .class files from both the Java program and Java API for the execution of Java interpreter. Then it checks for the class.file for validity. This is VMware, and Java virtual machine is another example for virtual machines. I hope all of you understood the topics. Thank you. Operating system generation. Here operating systems are designed to run on any of class of machines. The system must be configured for each specific computer site. For that we are using sysgen program obtains the information concerning the specific configuration of the hardware system. So the sysgen program read from a given file or ask the operator of the system for information concerning the specific configuration of the hardware system. And the following kind of information must be determined: what CPU is to be used, how much memory is available, what devices are available. The system will need to know how to address each device and what operating system options are desired or what parameter values are to be used. Once we got the answer for these questions, then that answer will be used for many purposes. For example, to rewrite the operating system code. For that also it can be used. And next topic is system boot. Now operating system is ready. Next thing is it should be made available to hardware. So hardware can start it. So first it should know where is the kernel, how to load the kernel, right? So to load the kernel we are using a small piece of code that is known as bootstrap loader. It can locate the kernel and load it into the memory and start it. And normally this bootstrap loader will be there in the ROM. And it can initialize all aspects of the system, and the system boot already explained in the first module introduction video. I hope all of you understood this part.